Wealth is never created through hard work alone. Real wealth is created through ownership. The biggest difference between people who remain trapped in endless work and those who achieve financial freedom is not luck, intelligence, or where they started in life. The real difference is understanding the asset game. Most people spend their entire lives earning money only when they work. The moment they stop working, the income stops too. But assets operate differently. Assets continue producing value whether you are actively involved or not. That single idea separates financial dependence from financial freedom. The wealthy understand early that time is limited, but assets can continue multiplying long after the effort is made. Instead of constantly asking, "How can I earn more money?" they begin asking, "How can I create something that earns for me over and over again?" That shift changes everything. This audiobook is not about overnight success or fast money schemes. It is not built on hype, gambling, or unrealistic promises. It is about understanding the systems behind long-term wealth creation. It is about learning how to move from simply participating in the economy to building structures that work for you. The asset game rewards patience, discipline, strategic thinking, and long-term vision. It favors people who understand leverage, ownership, systems, and cash flow. It rewards those who think beyond quick rewards and focus on building something that grows stronger over time. Throughout this audiobook, we will uncover the principles that wealthy people quietly follow. We will examine the hidden traps that keep hardworking people financially stuck. We will learn how to identify true assets, how to build reliable income engines, how to create multiple streams of cash flow, how to scale intelligently, and how to protect what you build. Gradually, your relationship with money will begin to change. You will stop viewing money as something only meant to be spent and start seeing it as a tool that can be positioned strategically. By the end of this journey, you will no longer define success by how many hours you work. Instead, you will measure success by the strength of the assets and systems you own. The game has always existed. Most people simply never learned the rules. Now it is time for you to understand them and begin playing with awareness. Chapter 1. Escape the income trap. A steady paycheck creates a feeling of safety. It feels stable, predictable, and responsible. In the beginning, earning money through your skills and effort is necessary and respectable. But over time, what feels safe can quietly become limiting. Comfort can slowly turn into dependence, and dependence on systems controlled by others is never true security. The income trap works in a simple cycle. You work, you earn, you spend, and then you repeat the process again. As long as you continue showing up, the income continues. The moment your energy disappears, the income disappears too. Illness, layoffs, stress, burnout, aging, or unexpected life events can instantly interrupt the flow. Your financial survival becomes tied directly to your physical presence. And no matter how talented or hardworking you are, your energy has limits. Many people believe higher income automatically creates freedom, but often it simply hides the problem. A larger salary usually creates larger responsibilities. Bigger homes, expensive lifestyles, monthly obligations, and constant financial pressure begin expanding alongside the income. Eventually, people are no longer working to grow. They are working simply to maintain the lifestyle attached to their earnings. The trap becomes stronger even while the income increases. Think deeply about this. If your money only arrives because you personally trade hours for it, then you are still locked inside the transaction. You may have status, respect, or a high-paying position, but your life is still connected to exchanging time for money, and time is the one resource that can never be replaced. Escaping the income trap does not mean suddenly abandoning your job. It means changing the way you think about income itself. Instead of asking, "How can I make more money this month?" you begin asking, "How can I build something that continues producing income even when I'm absent?" That question transforms your mindset completely. You stop thinking only as a worker and begin thinking like a builder. You stop acting only as an employee and begin acting like a strategist. Wealthy people rarely rely on a single source of active income. They take the money they earn and use it to acquire or build assets. These assets can include businesses, investments, real estate, intellectual property, digital systems, or anything capable of generating cash flow repeatedly. Every asset becomes another worker operating on your behalf. Every system you build creates additional leverage. Slowly, those systems begin reducing your dependence on constant labor. This is the real secret. Freedom is created through ownership, not endless activity. A person can stay busy every hour of the day and still remain financially weak. Another person can move slowly and strategically, building assets one at a time, and become financially stronger each year. The goal is not to stop working immediately. The goal is to make your work purposeful. Your current income should become fuel used to purchase future freedom. Instead of consuming everything you earn, you begin converting earned income into owned assets. In the beginning, progress often feels small. One asset may produce only a little cash flow. Then you reinvest. Then you build another. Slowly, momentum begins forming, and momentum compounds faster than most people realize. One stream of income becomes two become several. Eventually, money begins arriving without requiring your direct effort every single day. That is the moment the trap begins to weaken. Dependence slowly transforms into leverage. Employment alone can provide temporary stability, but assets create structural security. One depends on permission from others. The other depends on ownership and control. And ownership changes how you think. It changes how you negotiate. It changes how you make decisions. Fear begins losing its grip because your survival no longer depends entirely on one source. Escaping the income trap does not mean rejecting work. It means upgrading the purpose of work itself. Your job becomes the tool that finances your future assets instead of becoming the permanent center of your life. You stop seeing income as something only meant to be spent. You begin seeing it as capital meant to be deployed strategically. This is the first major shift inside the asset game. Recognize the trap. Respect the effort that brought you this far. Then make a quiet but firm decision that your future income will not depend entirely on your daily presence. Because the moment money continues flowing without your constant involvement, the game starts changing in your favor. Chapter 2. Learn the rules before you make a move. Every game operates through rules. Some rules are visible, others remain hidden until experience reveals them. Some are openly discussed, while others are understood only by those who take time to study the system deeply. The asset game follows the same principle. Many people rush into investing, business, trading, or opportunities without understanding the mechanics underneath them. They make moves without understanding the board they are playing on. And when someone enters a game without understanding its rules, even good opportunities can become expensive mistakes. Wealth is rarely accidental. Money follows patterns. Markets move in cycles. Financial systems operate through predictable principles. Taxes follow structures. Risk and reward are always connected. None of these concepts are mysterious, yet they appear confusing to people who never study them seriously. The wealthy rarely make emotional decisions blindly. Before committing money, they observe patterns, analyze risks, understand systems, and study how the mechanics work. One of the first rules of the asset game is understanding the importance of cash flow. Cash flow matters far more than appearances. An asset that consistently produces income is fundamentally different from something that only increases in value on paper. Appreciation can create wealth over time, but cash flow creates stability and control in the present. Cash flow pays bills. Cash flow reduces pressure. Cash flow gives flexibility during difficult periods. Without cash flow, people are often forced to depend entirely on future outcomes. With cash flow, they gain strength in the present moment. Another important rule is leverage. Leverage is frequently misunderstood because many people associate it only with debt or dangerous borrowing. True leverage is broader than that. Leverage simply means using resources beyond your own effort to expand results. Money can be leverage. Technology can be leverage. Teams can be leverage. Systems, automation, partnerships, and networks can all become forms of leverage. The wealthy understand when leverage accelerates growth and when it creates unnecessary danger. They respect leverage because they understand its power. They calculate carefully before using it. They never allow emotion to control major financial decisions. Risk is another rule many people misunderstand. Most people either avoid all risk or chase reckless risk. Wealthy thinkers approach it differently. They understand that risk itself is unavoidable. Every investment, business, or opportunity carries uncertainty. The real question is not whether risk exists. The real question is whether the risk is controlled, measured, and justified by the possible reward. People who consistently build wealth do not eliminate risk completely. Instead, they manage it intelligently. They prepare for worst-case scenarios before focusing on best-case outcomes. They ask what could fail before celebrating what could succeed. That mindset creates durability. Understanding the rules before making moves prevents emotional decisions, impulsive investments, and expensive lessons. The asset game rewards patience, preparation, and awareness far more than excitement or speed. The more deeply you understand the rules, the more confidently you can move. Because in every financial system, knowledge reduces unnecessary mistakes, and avoiding major mistakes is often more powerful than chasing quick wins. Taxes represent another hidden rule inside the asset game. Income earned through labor is usually taxed very differently from income generated through assets and ownership. Those who own businesses, investments, or income-producing systems often gain structural advantages that ordinary employees never experience. This is not random. Economic systems are designed to reward production, investment, and ownership because they stimulate growth. Once you understand this, your entire strategy begins to change. You start realizing why wealthy people prioritize building and owning assets rather than relying only on earned income. It is not just about making more money. It is about keeping more of what you make and operating more efficiently within the system. Patience is another rule that separates builders from impulsive players. Impatience is financially expensive. The market consistently rewards discipline over long periods of time. Compounding only works when consistency is maintained. Assets require time to strengthen, mature, and expand their value. Fast profits may look exciting, but lasting wealth is usually built quietly. Wealthy people do not chase every new trend or emotional opportunity that appears in front of them. They focus on long-term value and sustainable growth. They understand that protecting capital is just as important as increasing it. Another essential principle is this: clarity always outperforms excitement. Whenever a new opportunity appears, emotions naturally rise. Excitement creates urgency. Enthusiasm can easily blur judgment. But disciplined investors slow themselves down before making decisions. They ask structured questions instead of emotional ones. Does this asset generate reliable cash flow? What are the ongoing costs? What are the potential worst-case outcomes? Who truly controls the asset? What is the exit strategy if conditions change? Calm analysis almost always produces better long-term results than emotional excitement. Control is another major part of the rulebook. Ownership does not always require complete control, but influence over decisions matters greatly. Equity positions, voting rights, legal protections, partnership structures, and contractual terms can all shape outcomes significantly. The wealthy pay close attention to structure because they understand a powerful truth. Optimism alone does not determine results. Structure determines results. Perhaps the most important rule of all is continuous education. The asset game rewards people who constantly increase their understanding. Financial literacy is not optional for someone seeking long-term freedom. Learning how to read balance sheets, understand return on investment, calculate cash-on-cash returns, evaluate debt ratios, and measure performance are skills anyone can develop. These abilities are not reserved only for financial experts or elite investors. They are learnable skills, and once you understand them, the way you evaluate opportunities changes permanently. Entering the asset game without understanding the rules is like entering a chess match without knowing how the pieces move. A person may get lucky once or twice, but long-term consistency requires understanding. Study creates confidence. Knowledge reduces emotional decision-making. Preparation transforms fear into calculation. Before you buy, study carefully. Before you invest, analyze deeply. Before you expand, understand completely. Every disciplined decision compounds over time. Wealthy people often appear bold from the outside, but their confidence is usually built on preparation and understanding. They move decisively because they respect the rules of the game. Learning the rules does not slow your progress. It strengthens your position. It allows you to move intentionally instead of impulsively. It ensures that every step you take supports long-term freedom rather than short-term emotion. In the asset game, the person who understands the board will almost always outlast the person who moves recklessly, and in this game, longevity becomes one of the greatest forms of power. Chapter 3. Buy cash flow, not status. Status is loud, cash flow is quiet. Status demands attention from the outside world. Cash flow works silently behind the scenes. Status creates appearances. Cash flow creates freedom. And inside the asset game, freedom matters far more than appearances. Many people confuse the appearance of wealth with actual wealth. Luxury cars, oversized homes, designer brands, expensive watches, private memberships, and visible symbols of success all attract admiration. They create the image of prosperity. But image alone does not create financial strength. Attention is not income. Admiration is not ownership. Appearance is not financial security. Wealthy people understand a subtle but life-changing principle. Assets come first, lifestyle comes later. Instead of rushing to display success, they focus first on acquiring structures that produce income consistently. They purchase assets that pay them repeatedly. They invest in systems capable of generating returns month after month and year after year. Their focus is recurring cash flow, not recurring approval from others. The real danger of status spending is not that it feels enjoyable. It absolutely does. The danger is that it quietly increases dependence. Every visible upgrade usually creates invisible obligations. A more expensive car brings payments, insurance, maintenance costs, taxes, and pressure. A larger home creates higher expenses, repairs, property taxes, and financial commitments. What appears impressive externally may secretly require constant effort internally just to maintain. Instead of creating freedom, excessive lifestyle expansion often creates financial pressure. Cash flow works differently. An income-producing asset strengthens your life rather than draining it. Rental income, business profits, dividends, royalties, licensing income, digital products, and intellectual property can all generate recurring cash flow. These forms of income may not attract immediate attention, but they quietly build resilience and independence. They create breathing room. They create options. They create stability. Think carefully about the difference between an asset and a liability. A liability removes money from your pocket each month. An asset places money into your pocket each month. One increases financial dependence, the other increases financial independence. And the distinction has nothing to do with labels. It is based entirely on function. Does it consistently produce income for you? Or does it consistently require income from you? That single question changes how you evaluate purchases forever. This does not mean you must reject comfort, enjoyment, or success. It simply means you must sequence them intelligently. Disciplined builders focus on strengthening invisible foundations before upgrading visible lifestyles. The dream house becomes sustainable when assets support it. The luxury becomes stable when systems pay for it. The lifestyle becomes secure when income flows without constant labor. Another hidden danger is social comparison. It is easy to look around and believe others are financially ahead simply because they display visible success. But visible success reveals very little about financial structure. Someone may appear wealthy while carrying massive debt and financial stress. Another person may live modestly while quietly building powerful income-producing assets behind the scenes. The second person understands the asset game. The first person may only be chasing approval. Approval fades quickly. Trends change constantly. Public attention disappears. But strong cash flow built on real fundamentals continues working year after year. That continuity creates genuine confidence. When your income no longer depends on impressing others, you stop seeking validation through spending. You stop feeling pressure to prove your worth externally. The discipline required to prioritize cash flow over status demands emotional maturity. It requires long-term thinking. Every dollar spent chasing temporary image is a dollar that could have been invested into a productive system. Over time, those small financial decisions compound dramatically. One decision alone may seem insignificant, but repeated consistently over years, those choices shape your entire trajectory. Imagine redirecting money that would have been spent on premature lifestyle upgrades into an income-producing asset instead. That asset begins generating returns. Those returns are reinvested into additional assets. Eventually, the system itself funds the lifestyle. Now the purchase is supported by production rather than personal labor. The same luxury feels completely different when assets pay for it instead of your time. Wealthy people do not avoid enjoyment. They simply make sure enjoyment is funded by systems rather than dependency. They understand that status purchased without structure is fragile, while cash flow built through discipline is durable. Durable income creates real confidence, and real confidence reduces the need for external display. The asset game rewards those who think beneath the surface. Before every major purchase, ask yourself one simple but powerful question. Will this generate income for me, or will it require income from me? The answer shapes your future. It determines whether you are strengthening your financial position or weakening it. Choose income over image. Choose structure over display. Choose assets that quietly pay you again and again. Over time, the freedom you build will speak louder than any symbol ever could. Chapter 4. Position yourself on the right side of the deal. Every transaction has two sides. Every opportunity has a structure. And in the asset game, your position within that structure determines whether you build power or surrender it. Wealth is rarely accidental. More often, it is the result of intentional positioning. Wealthy people do not simply participate in opportunities, they position themselves on the side that benefits most when the outcome succeeds. Think carefully about any business exchange. Someone provides labor, someone provides capital, someone controls ownership, someone absorbs risk. These positions are not equal in power or long-term reward. The individual who understands how the structure works often benefits more than the person working hardest inside the system. Hard work matters, but structure multiplies the value of hard work. Position creates leverage. When you only exchange time for money, you are positioned primarily as a participant rather than an owner. Your effort produces compensation, but your upside remains limited. Ownership changes the equation completely. Equity, ownership stakes, profit sharing, and contractual control allow people to benefit not only from activity, but from growth itself. When revenue expands, owners participate in the upside. When value increases, equity holders gain. When systems scale, those positioned correctly continue benefiting without increasing their personal hours. This is why understanding equity matters so deeply. Equity is more than a financial term. It is a position within the structure of the deal. Instead of being compensated only once for effort, you gain a share of future value creation. That shift from simple payment to long-term participation is powerful. It transforms involvement into ownership. It connects your effort directly to future growth. Positioning also requires intelligent awareness of risk. The best side of a deal is not automatically the side promising the largest possible return. The best position is where risk and reward remain balanced wisely. Some opportunities advertise extraordinary upside while hiding dangerous exposure underneath. Others may grow more slowly but provide stability and controlled risk. Disciplined builders study structure carefully before committing. They ask important questions. Who controls major decisions? Who carries liability if problems occur? Who benefits most from appreciation? Who absorbs losses first? These questions reveal the true strength of a deal. Negotiation also plays a major role in positioning. Many people focus only on the opportunity itself while ignoring the terms surrounding it. Yet terms often determine long-term outcomes more than the opportunity alone. A small improvement in structure can create enormous differences over time. A slightly larger equity percentage stronger contractual protections, a better repayment schedule, or a clearly defined exit clause can significantly improve financial outcomes years later. Wealthy people pay attention to details because they understand that details shape destiny. Control is another critical element of positioning. Full ownership is powerful, but strategic influence can sometimes be equally valuable. Board seats, voting authority, management influence, and partnership agreements all shape direction and decision-making. Control gives you the ability to protect your interests and influence growth over time. Without some level of influence, you may benefit temporarily, but your future remains vulnerable to decisions made entirely by others. Leverage also connects directly with positioning. In many situations, you do not need to own 100% of an asset to benefit significantly from it. Strategic partnerships allow individuals to combine skills, resources, capital, and expertise. When structured correctly, everyone contributes value and shares fairly in the rewards. When structured poorly, imbalance creates tension, confusion, and conflict. This is why clarity matters so much. Clear agreements, defined responsibilities, aligned incentives, and transparent expectations protect everyone involved and strengthen long-term stability. Timing introduces another important layer to positioning. Entering a deal early often carries higher uncertainty and greater risk, but it may also provide larger upside potential. Entering later may offer more stability and proof of concept, but usually with reduced upside. Neither approach is universally right or wrong. The correct choice depends entirely on your strategy, your patience, and your tolerance for risk. The important thing is intentionality. Do not drift carelessly into opportunities simply because others are excited about them. Choose opportunities deliberately and understand exactly why you are entering them. Most people focus almost entirely on what they are being paid today. Builders focus on what they are building for tomorrow. That difference changes everything. If you constantly negotiate only for higher short-term compensation while ignoring ownership opportunities, you may increase your immediate income while limiting your future wealth potential. But if you are willing to exchange some short-term gain for equity, ownership, or strategic participation, you may unlock far greater long-term rewards. Positioning is not manipulation. It is awareness. It is understanding how value moves through a system and making sure you are aligned with that movement. It requires patience, confidence, and clarity. Before entering any opportunity, you must know exactly what you want. You must understand the value of your contribution and the role you are playing within the structure. The asset game rewards structural thinking. Before agreeing to any deal, pause and examine the framework carefully. Ask yourself an important question. Which side of the structure am I standing on? Am I building ownership, influence, leverage, and future upside? Or am I simply renting out my time? When you repeatedly place yourself on the side of ownership and long-term growth, momentum begins to compound. Every well-structured decision strengthens the next one. Gradually, you move from participant to stakeholder, from worker to architect, and in the asset game, architecture determines outcome. Bitaka Chapter 5. Build your first income engine. Every powerful structure begins with a foundation. In the asset game, your first income engine becomes that foundation. It does not need to be massive, it does not need to be perfect, but it must be intentional. Its purpose is simple. It must generate income beyond your direct hourly effort. This is the stage where ideas become action, where theory transforms into something real. An income engine is more than a job or paycheck. It is a system, even a small one, that consistently creates value and produces recurring income. That engine could take many forms. It might begin as a side business, a digital product, a small investment portfolio, a rental property, a service company with delegated work, or a strategic ownership stake in something productive. The exact form matters less than the function. The function is what matters most. A true income engine continues producing value without requiring you to trade every minute of your life for every dollar earned. Your first engine will probably seem small in the beginning. That is completely normal. The purpose of the first asset is not to change your life overnight. Its purpose is to change your direction permanently. It proves something powerful to you. It proves that income can exist independently from your constant presence. Even a modest amount of recurring income creates a psychological shift. Your identity starts changing. You no longer see yourself only as someone who earns money through labor. You begin seeing yourself as someone who builds systems. Before constructing your first engine, strengthen your earning power first. Your active income becomes fuel for future ownership. The more valuable your skills become, the more capital you can deploy into assets. Improve your competence, increase your market value, strengthen communication, negotiation, leadership, and technical skills. Whatever your field requires, stronger earning ability creates larger surplus income. That surplus becomes investment capital, investment becomes ownership. Ownership creates leverage. When choosing your first engine, simplicity is often the smartest path. Complex systems create confusion and unnecessary risk in the beginning. Choose something understandable. Study it deeply. Learn how it produces revenue. Understand its expenses. Understand its risks and weaknesses. Clarity creates confidence. The objective is not speed. The objective is sustainability. Reinvestment becomes the heartbeat of your first engine. When income starts arriving, resist the temptation to consume it immediately. Redirect those profits back into strengthening the asset itself, expand its capacity, improve its efficiency, acquire complementary assets around it. This is where compounding truly begins. Compounding only works when profits are reinvested consistently rather than withdrawn too early. This discipline separates temporary success from long-term growth. Expect obstacles during the process. No income engine operates perfectly at the beginning. There will be mistakes, adjustments, setbacks, and learning curves. Do not see these experiences as failure. See them as tuition. Every correction improves the system. Every challenge sharpens your judgment. Every lesson strengthens your future decisions. Wealthy people do not avoid setbacks entirely. They refine systems through them. Momentum is subtle in the early stages. The first months may feel slow. The results may appear small compared to the effort invested. Stay consistent anyway. Strong systems gain momentum gradually. Once stabilized, they begin requiring less direct attention while producing more reliable results. That stability creates time, energy, and mental space for building additional assets. Diversification comes later. At first, focus on making one engine dependable. Depth matters before breadth. Master one structure before trying to build several. Once you truly understand how one system functions, replication becomes easier. Patterns become visible. Risk becomes easier to measure. Expansion becomes strategic instead of emotional. During this process, your thinking starts changing in an important way. Instead of asking, how much money will this pay me right now, you begin asking, can this become an engine? That question changes how you evaluate opportunities completely. Your first engine may still require significant effort initially. That is acceptable. The real goal is gradual independence from your direct involvement over time. Automate processes, delegate tasks, improve efficiency steadily. Reduce your hands-on role while maintaining performance. This transition from operator to overseer is essential. Confidence grows through small milestones. The first recurring payment, the first reinvestment, the first month where income arrives without direct labor. These moments may appear small externally, but internally they are powerful. They reinforce belief in the process. They build discipline. They prove that the asset game is practical reality, not just theory. Remember this clearly. The size of your first engine matters far less than its reliability. A small but stable system is far more valuable than a large but unstable one. Stability creates trust in your process, and trust allows you to scale with confidence instead of fear. Building your first income engine is an act of commitment. It signals that you are no longer willing to depend entirely on earned income alone. It marks your transition into ownership. You stop being only a participant. You become a creator of systems. Once the first engine is operating successfully, the path ahead becomes much clearer. You refine what works, replicate successful patterns, and expand gradually. Momentum compounds. What once began as a modest structure slowly becomes the foundation of lasting financial freedom. Chapter 6. Stack assets like building blocks. One asset creates progress. Multiple assets create power. The asset game is not won through one perfect decision. It is won through the consistent stacking of intelligent decisions over time. Every asset you build becomes another building block. When those blocks are placed strategically, they form a structure that grows stronger with every additional layer. Think about it this way. Your first income engine proves the concept. Your second reinforces it. Your third accelerates it. Stacking assets means intentionally layering systems that support and strengthen each other. Instead of depending on a single income source, you create multiple streams. Instead of hoping one opportunity carries you forever, you design a structure where several income engines work together. Stacking requires discipline and patience. After experiencing early success, many people become tempted to chase every opportunity they encounter. But intelligent stacking is focused and strategic, not scattered and impulsive. Every new asset should strengthen your existing structure. It should either increase cash flow, reduce vulnerability, or expand your future capacity. There are two major ways to stack assets. The first is horizontal stacking. Horizontal stacking means building different types of income streams across multiple areas. For example, someone may combine business ownership with dividend-producing investments, rental properties, licensing income, or digital assets. Chapter 7. Use leverage as a multiplier, not a crutch. Leverage is one of the most powerful forces inside the asset game. When used wisely, it accelerates growth dramatically. When used carelessly, it magnifies mistakes just as quickly. The difference does not lie in leverage itself. The difference lies in the discipline of the person using it. At its core, leverage means using resources beyond your personal effort to increase results. Financial leverage uses borrowed capital. Human leverage uses skilled people and teams. Technological leverage uses systems, automation, and software. Intellectual leverage distributes ideas at scale. The wealthy understand an important truth. Individual effort alone always has limits. Leverage expands those limits. Financial leverage is the most commonly discussed form and also the most misunderstood. Borrowing money to acquire productive, income-generating assets can significantly amplify returns. If an asset produces more cash flow than the cost of borrowing, the difference becomes profit. This is how many large portfolios and businesses are built. But leverage must be connected to productive assets, not consumption. Borrowing money for liabilities weakens your financial position. Borrowing strategically for carefully evaluated cash-flowing assets can strengthen it. The critical word is carefully. Leverage multiplies outcomes. If your foundation is unstable, leverage magnifies instability. If your cash flow is weak, debt increases pressure. If your analysis is flawed, borrowed money accelerates losses. This is why discipline must always come before expansion. Stability first, acceleration second. Human leverage is equally powerful. Delegation multiplies time and productivity. When you build strong systems and place capable people inside them, output expands beyond your personal capacity. One person can only accomplish so much alone. A coordinated team can accomplish exponentially more. Leadership itself becomes a form of leverage. By creating alignment, structure, incentives, and clear direction, you multiply impact without multiplying your personal effort. Technology creates another powerful layer. Automation eliminates repetitive tasks. Digital platforms distribute products globally. Software scales operations without requiring equal increases in labor. One strong idea can reach thousands or even millions when paired with the right infrastructure. This is modern leverage. Efficiency built directly into systems. However, leverage must never become a crutch. A crutch compensates for weakness. A multiplier strengthens existing strength. If leverage is used to hide poor planning, emotional decisions, lack of knowledge, or weak fundamentals, it eventually exposes those weaknesses. Wealthy builders prepare carefully before expanding. They study numbers deeply. They evaluate risk honestly. They build buffers and contingencies. They do not depend on optimism alone. One of the greatest dangers in the asset game is overextension. Success in one area often creates confidence. Over time, confidence can quietly evolve into overconfidence. Expansion becomes aggressive. Debt increases rapidly. Complexity multiplies faster than stability. Without discipline and oversight, even strong structures become fragile. Ambition must always grow alongside discipline. A useful principle to remember is this: leverage should increase capacity without threatening survival. If removing leverage would completely collapse your structure, you are probably overexposed. Healthy leverage strengthens performance while preserving resilience. Timing matters greatly as well. Early in your journey, focus more heavily on building competence, discipline, and reliable cash flow. As your understanding improves and your assets strengthen, leverage becomes safer and more effective. Growth built gradually on strong foundations is sustainable. Rapid growth built on weak foundations is dangerous. Leverage also demands emotional discipline. Markets constantly move through cycles. Economic conditions change. Interest rates rise and fall. Uncertainty appears unexpectedly. The disciplined builder understands that volatility is normal and prepares for it in advance. They create contingency plans. They maintain liquidity. They avoid making major decisions during panic or euphoria. When used intelligently, leverage compresses time. It allows you to accomplish in 5 years what may otherwise take 15. It accelerates asset stacking. It amplifies compounding. But leverage must always be respected. Respect prevents recklessness. Think of leverage like a high-powered engine booster. Without direction and control, it creates instability and loss of control. But when paired with discipline, clarity, and structure, it dramatically increases speed toward your destination. The goal is not maximum leverage. The goal is optimal leverage. Optimal leverage supports growth while preserving security and flexibility. The asset game rewards intelligent expansion. Learn how to evaluate risk carefully. Strengthen your ability to analyze opportunities. Build financial reserves. Then apply leverage strategically and intentionally. Use leverage to multiply strong foundations rather than to hide weak ones. When leverage becomes a multiplier instead of a crutch, it transforms into one of your greatest allies. It expands your reach, it accelerates your progress, and when combined with discipline, it converts steady growth into exponential momentum. Chapter 8. Design assets that outlive your effort. The true test of an asset is simple. Does it continue producing value when you step away? If your income disappears the moment you stop working, then you have created activity, not a true asset. The asset game is ultimately won by building structures that continue operating beyond your daily effort. In the beginning, nearly every asset requires direct involvement. You plan it, build it, manage it, and solve problems personally. That is natural. But from the very start, your vision must extend beyond your physical presence. The long-term objective is independence through systems. You build with the end in mind, an engine capable of operating through structure, processes, and repeatability rather than constant supervision. Recurring revenue becomes the foundation of durable assets. One-time sales create temporary spikes of income. Recurring models create stability and predictability. Subscription businesses, long-term agreements, rental income, royalties, dividend-producing investments, and licensing structures all create recurring flow. Predictable income reduces stress. Predictability improves planning. Predictability strengthens decision-making. The difference between a job and a scalable asset is repeatability. If the value you create can be delivered repeatedly without reinventing the process every time, then you are building something durable. Systems transform effort into structure. Documentation converts knowledge into transferable processes. Automation reduces dependence on memory, manual oversight, and constant intervention. Delegation also becomes essential. Many builders struggle with delegation because they fear losing control. They believe nobody else can execute at their standard. In the beginning, that feeling may seem justified, but long-term growth requires trust, training, accountability, and clearly defined expectations. When responsibilities are organized properly and standards are measurable, consistency becomes possible without constant involvement from you personally. Technology further strengthens durability. Payment systems, management software, automation tools, digital platforms and marketing systems embed consistency directly into operations. They reduce friction, they increase efficiency, they allow scale without proportional increases in labor. Once configured properly, these systems continue operating continuously. Another critical principle is simplicity. Complexity creates fragility. The more moving parts your asset contains, the more oversight it demands. Streamlined systems are easier to manage, maintain, and scale. Clear revenue models consistently outperform unnecessarily complicated structures. The wealthy value clarity, because clarity scales effectively. Designing assets that outlive your effort also requires separating yourself gradually from day-to-day operations. You transition from operator to overseer. Instead of monitoring every detail manually, you begin managing through metrics, reports, and performance indicators. Numbers tell important stories. Cash flow statements, profit margins, customer retention, and growth rates reveal the health of the system. These indicators allow you to make strategic adjustments without becoming trapped inside daily operations. Patience remains essential throughout this process. Independence does not appear instantly. Initially, you may still be deeply involved, but over time, systems stabilize, processes improve, bottlenecks are removed, responsibilities become clearer. Each improvement reduces dependence on you personally. Eventually, the system becomes increasingly self-sustaining. Ownership structure also matters greatly. Clear agreements with partners, defined responsibilities, protected equity positions, and organized legal structures create continuity during challenges. Without structure, assets often collapse under pressure. With strong structure, they endure. Liquidity contributes to durability as well. An asset may appear valuable on paper while trapping all available capital internally. Balanced asset design creates both cash flow and flexibility. Strong assets provide returns while still allowing reinvestment and future expansion. Always think long-term. Ask yourself an important question. If I stepped away completely for 3 months, would this asset continue operating successfully? If the answer is no, improve the design, strengthen automation, improve delegation, clarify systems, reduce dependency on yourself. Every adjustment increases resilience. Durable assets create time freedom. They disconnect income from constant physical presence. That separation changes life completely. Decisions become calmer. Opportunities are evaluated more clearly. Creativity expands because survival pressure decreases. The ultimate objective is autonomy. Assets that operate independently provide options and flexibility. You may still choose to remain involved strategically, but you are no longer required to be present constantly for income to continue flowing. That distinction is incredibly powerful. Build deliberately from the beginning. Create systems early. Strengthen structure continuously. Replace manual processes with repeatable frameworks. Train people effectively. Implement technology wisely. Measure performance consistently. When your assets continue functioning beyond your direct effort, you enter a completely new level of the asset game. Income becomes structural. Time becomes flexible. Growth becomes sustainable. And freedom shifts from theory into reality. Chapter 9. Turn volatility into advantage. Markets move constantly. Economies expand and contract. Prices rise and fall. Optimism spreads rapidly, then suddenly fear replaces it. Volatility is not an exception inside the asset game. It is part of the natural cycle. Those who understand this do not panic during uncertainty. When conditions shift, disciplined builders prepare, observe carefully, and act strategically when the timing becomes favorable. Uncertainty creates opportunity. When fear dominates markets, valuable assets often become undervalued. When excitement dominates, assets are frequently overpriced. Disciplined investors learn to recognize emotional extremes. Instead of blindly following crowds, they study behavior carefully. They understand that markets are driven not only by numbers, but also by psychology. During expansion cycles, confidence increases quickly. Credit becomes easier to access. Optimism spreads rapidly. It begins feeling as though growth will continue forever. This is precisely when caution becomes necessary. Overpaying for assets during euphoric periods reduces future returns. Discipline requires evaluating fundamentals even when enthusiasm is high. Ask yourself important questions. Does this asset generate reliable cash flow? Is the price supported by actual performance? Would this investment still make sense if growth slowed dramatically? Then contraction arrives. Fear dominates headlines. Investors hesitate. Uncertainty increases. Opportunities suddenly appear dangerous. This is when courage backed by analysis becomes valuable. Strong assets with solid fundamentals may temporarily become available at discounted prices. Disciplined builders do not rush recklessly into uncertainty, but they also do not freeze in fear. They evaluate liquidity carefully. They assess downside risk. They position themselves strategically. Liquidity becomes power during volatile periods. Cash reserves create flexibility. Without liquidity, even exceptional opportunities cannot be seized effectively. This is why reserves matter so much. Reserves are not wasted money. They are strategic ammunition. They allow you to act while others remain trapped by fear or lack of flexibility. Emotional control also becomes a major competitive advantage. Panic selling destroys long-term value. Emotional buying during hype increases unnecessary risk. Wealthy investors train themselves to respond calmly and deliberately. They rely on data rather than headlines. They revisit strategy instead of reacting emotionally to noise. Diversification contributes to stability as well. Different asset classes respond differently during economic stress. When one sector weakens, another may remain stable or even strengthen. Spreading exposure intelligently reduces vulnerability during downturns. Stability creates patience. Concentrating everything into a single asset may produce strong returns during favorable conditions, but it also increases vulnerability dramatically. If that one asset struggles, the impact becomes severe. Spreading investments across different industries, structures, and markets distributes exposure intelligently. Diversification does not eliminate risk completely. It manages it strategically. Legal structure forms another layer of defense. Ownership matters, but how ownership is structured matters even more. Strong contracts, clear partnership agreements, limited liability protections, defined responsibilities, and proper documentation protect both assets and relationships. Vague arrangements invite confusion and conflict. Clear structure preserves stability. Liquidity also provides protection. Some assets may appear highly valuable on paper while remaining difficult to convert into accessible cash quickly. Without liquidity, unexpected challenges create pressure and force rush decisions. Accessible reserves create flexibility during disruption. Liquidity allows you to navigate difficult periods calmly without selling long-term assets prematurely. Insurance also plays an important role. Property coverage, liability protection, business interruption insurance, and similar safeguards are not signs of weakness. They are tools of preparation. The goal is not to expect disaster constantly. The goal is ensuring recovery remains possible if disruption occurs. Protection is ultimately about continuity. Debt management creates another defensive layer. Leverage can accelerate growth when used wisely, but unmanaged debt increases fragility. Review obligations regularly. Ensure cash flow comfortably supports commitments. Avoid excessive leverage during favorable periods simply because optimism is high. Strong defense requires margin. Margin absorbs shocks. Tax planning also contributes to preservation. Efficient structures reduce unnecessary losses. Understanding legal frameworks allows you to retain more of what you build. Preservation is not about avoiding responsibility. It is about managing responsibilities intelligently and strategically. Another essential part of protecting the castle is vigilance. Assets must be reviewed periodically. Markets evolve. Businesses mature. Regulations shift. Strategies that worked years ago may require adjustment today. Protection is not a one-time action, it is an ongoing discipline. Reputation is another overlooked layer of defense. Integrity strengthens trust. Trust strengthens relationships. Strong relationships create support during difficult periods. Ethical behavior protects long-term positioning far more effectively than short-term manipulation ever could. Emotional discipline also protects wealth. Panic selling during downturns destroys value. Reckless expansion during euphoric periods increases exposure unnecessarily. Balanced decision-making preserves stability. Patience protects capital. As asset structures grow larger, complexity increases. Complexity requires oversight. Delegation must include accountability. Reporting systems should create transparency. Strong leaders detect problems early because they remain informed without becoming emotionally reactive. Protection also means understanding when to exit. Holding every asset forever is not always wise. Sometimes preserving wealth requires selling strategically and reallocating resources elsewhere. Conclusion: master the asset game in silence. The asset game has never been only about earning money. At its core, it has always been about gaining control. Control over your time. Control over your choices. Control over the direction your life moves in. Money is only the instrument. Assets are the foundation. Discipline is the method that turns effort into freedom. At the beginning of this journey, you discovered a powerful truth. Earning income is not the same as building wealth. Many people spend their entire lives working hard, staying busy and remaining dependent, because their income stops the moment their effort stops. The income trap keeps people active, but rarely gives them freedom. Escaping that cycle requires a different mindset. It requires ownership. You learned that before entering the game, you must understand the rules behind it. Wealth is rarely accidental. It is usually the result of strategy, structure, and long-term thinking. You shifted your attention away from status and toward cash flow. Instead of chasing appearances, you learned to value assets that quietly produce income month after month. You discovered the importance of positioning yourself correctly in every deal. Effort matters, but structure determines who truly benefits. Ownership, equity, leverage, and control shape long-term outcomes far more than temporary activity ever will. From there, you began building your first income engine, a system capable of generating value beyond your direct labor. As your understanding deepened, you learned how to stack assets strategically. One asset created progress. Multiple assets created resilience. Slowly, individual streams of income transformed into a connected structure designed for stability and growth. You also learned that leverage, when used wisely, can accelerate progress dramatically. But when used recklessly, it can destroy years of effort. Discipline became the difference between intelligent expansion and dangerous overextension. You learn to design assets that continue operating even when you step away. Real freedom begins when systems work without constant supervision. Through automation, delegation, recurring revenue, and efficient structures, you transformed effort into sustainable income. You also learned that volatility is not something to fear. Market fluctuations are part of the process. Fear and uncertainty often create opportunities for those who remain calm, prepared, and patient. While others react emotionally, disciplined builders position themselves strategically. Protecting wealth became just as important as creating it. You discovered that strong structures require defense. Diversification, legal protection, liquidity, risk management, and careful oversight all help preserve what you build. Growth without protection creates fragility. Protection without growth creates stagnation. Lasting success requires balance between both. You increased your asset IQ by learning how to analyze opportunities intelligently. Numbers stopped feeling intimidating and began revealing stories. You learned how to evaluate cash flow, profitability, risk, and long-term value. Knowledge reduced emotional decision-making and replaced it with confidence grounded in understanding. Scaling taught another important lesson. Expansion is powerful only when guided by discipline. Growth without systems creates chaos. Growth supported by structure creates durability. By focusing on strong foundations, careful capital allocation, and strategic leadership, you learned how to grow without losing stability. You also realized that no one succeeds entirely alone. A strong circle of builders, mentors, partners, and disciplined thinkers sharpens judgment and accelerates growth. The people around you influence your standards, your perspective, and your ambition. Surrounding yourself with those who think long-term strengthens your own ability to do the same. Most importantly, you embraced the long game. Real wealth is rarely built overnight. It is constructed patiently through consistency, reinvestment, resilience, and disciplined decision-making repeated over years. Compounding rewards those who stay focused while others chase distractions. And eventually, the final transformation occurred. You moved from being an earner to becoming an architect. Instead of trading time for income, you began designing systems that generate income independently. You stopped asking how hard you needed to work and started asking how intelligently your systems were built. This shift changes everything. When assets produce consistently, fear decreases. Decisions become calmer. Opportunities become clearer. Time becomes flexible. Your life is no longer dictated entirely by survival or urgency. You gain the ability to choose rather than simply react. True wealth rarely announces itself loudly. It does not always appear through luxury, attention, or public validation. Real wealth is often invisible. It exists quietly in strong cash flow, protected assets, reliable systems, disciplined habits, and the freedom to live life intentionally. Winning the asset game is not about competing with other people. It is about strengthening your own structure year after year. It is about turning earned income into ownership. It is about replacing dependency with design. It is about building systems that support your future instead of consuming your energy forever. There will still be uncertainty ahead. Markets will shift. Economies will change. Challenges will appear. But disciplined systems endure. Strong structures survive volatility. Patience continues compounding even during difficult seasons. Never underestimate the power of small, consistent actions. A single investment may seem minor. One disciplined habit may feel insignificant. But repeated over time, small actions become massive outcomes. Quiet progress eventually becomes undeniable strength. Continue learning. Continue refining. Continue protecting and expanding thoughtfully. Let your assets grow steadily in the background while your freedom increases in the foreground. You now understand the blueprint. You know that wealth is built through ownership. You know that freedom comes from structure. You know that patience creates power. You know that discipline compounds. And you know that the asset game rewards those who think beyond today. Now the responsibility shifts to action. Build carefully. Expand intelligently. Protect consistently. Lead ethically. Stay patient. Stay focused. Keep stacking. Play the game quietly. Let your systems speak louder than your lifestyle. Let your stability become your proof. Over time, your assets will begin carrying more of the weight that your effort once carried alone. And eventually, you will realize something powerful. You are no longer working only to survive. You are building a life designed on your own terms. That is the true power of the asset game.